And obviously the box office, the reason it's such a big deal is because it is a big deal. You're relaunching your universe. You decided to move off from something. You decided to reboot this thing. And this is the superhero in Superman and $220 million global debut. If there's anybody that's out there being like, that it bombed in its opening weekend, I don't really agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that the domestic opening is okay. The international numbers should be very worrisome for them. And overall, I think it's a weak opening. It has a chance with great word of mouth, and I think this is going to hold much better than Captain America Brave New World or some of these entries.
Yes.
I think it's going to have a very solid hold throughout this week and the second weekend. But it's going to have a Guardians of the Galaxy. If it has a hold similar to Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Which had about a 3-time multiplier or something close to that. If it holds like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, you're talking about a movie that might make $600 million. So like this is why like we have to be looking at these things. And one of the massive copes, we saw Warner Brothers, look, we know what they're going to do. I would not expect Warner Brothers to come out and say after this, well, we are fucked. Of course, they're going to come out and celebrate and say, we have big plans for this universe and blah, blah, blah. They try to tell us we'll be happy with 500 million. Bro, if this hits 500 million, they will be very, very worried about the future. But this was one of the lines that I saw in one of the interviews with Jeff Goldstein, president of Global Distribution, talking about the international numbers. We always knew this would be bigger in the US than international. Superman has always been very American-centric. Well, one, if Superman's so American-centric and all of this stuff, why didn't you actually lean into that instead of running away from the America aspect throughout everything?
I mean, this is why I think this movie has been so overly scrutinized. Every aspect of it, every line on the red carpet, people are overly scrutinizing it. This is why you see people like that annoying guy from Variety that baits everybody into saying stupid shit, and then the right actually comments on it. It's like this constant loop of baiting each other and commenting, because Superman represents the American identity. In a way, Superman is our Zeus, modern mythology. It's important. The colors of his suit, with the exception of the yellow, which if you turn white, is red, white, and blue. He symbolizes America, American values. That's why it's important, especially today. So to not lean into that, because we have people from all over the world who want to be here in America, who want to live American values. And to not lean into that, I think, is a mistake. I think now's the right time. And to brush that off, I don't know, maybe that is the reason it's not spectacular, not bad, just the box office is mid, and I think the agreement is probably, you could say, the movie is mid, not bad, not great, just mid. But how do you feel about that? Like, it really is. Superman is the embodiment of all that is American. It's apple pie. It's, middle of the country. It's farm, good people and good values.
There are people all around the world, regardless of what we think about, this person in charge or this party in charge or whatever, shit changes every 2 to 4 years. Okay. Yeah. So like all of those things that we always argue about here, those things change often here in America, but globally for years and years and decades, has there been a lot of criticism for America from a lot of other places? Certainly there has, but also it is still a place that is like the dream for everyone to go to, the place that they want to get to, that they want to go there. They want to come to America. The idea that you would shy away from it is retarded. And this is cope. Superman has always been very American-centric. And the reason we're talking about international numbers, a $95 million international debut, that is about half of what Guardians of the Galaxy 3 debuted to internationally. That is less than Shazam debuted internationally. So this is what we're talking. Is Shazam a bigger name around the rest of the world than fucking Superman? Stop with this cope. And There's one Superman movie that you could like point to and be like, well, that had about the same amount of interest between domestic and international. And that would be Superman Returns. Virtually identical domestic and international.
Yeah.
All of the other stuff, Man of Steel, we can look at Man of Steel, right? Significantly more internationally than domestic. Batman v Superman, significantly more international than domestic.
Yeah.
Even Superman, 1978, Superman, 165 million international to 134 domestic. And
yeah,
Chris,
well, just for inflation on this movie, it's got to be $2 trillion.
Sure, it's like 1.4 billion or something if you adjust for inflation, I'm sure. But you are a little bit older than I am. The kind of norm now is for movies to do a little bit better internationally than domestic in these global box office releases. In 1978, was that the norm?
No, that's crazy.
Yeah. Let's look from some other big hits like around this time frame. Jaws, domestic, 273 to 210. It must be more American-centric than fucking Superman. E.T., 439 domestic, 357 international. Star Wars, released a year before, 460 domestic, 314 international. This is before the international box office became a massive deal. Now we know what a huge thing it is. It was rolled out much slower there. You couldn't expect the same returns from these international numbers back then. But even in 1978, which is still the gold standard, even that movie had more international. So this is a massive fucking cope to pretend like, oh yeah, we always knew the international was going to be incredibly fucking disappointing. There's a lack of interest in this movie, period. Like from international markets. Despite their efforts to embrace the human way instead of the American way.
I think we all agree the clips that came out did not help the film. In context, they were fine, but the clips did not help. And the trailers weren't, I mean, Jeremy's pointed it out. Man of Steel trailers are not only the best Superman trailers I've ever seen, might be one of the greatest trailers ever for Man of Steel. We're so good. They gave me, I remember getting chills. I had a YouTube playlist, I still have, of all the Man of Steel trailers and TV spots. Those trailers with Hans Zimmer's music are amazing. Amazing. The trailers for this did not impress, unfortunately.
And that's kind of what I've been saying to people, because I do not recommend that. Oh, don't go see this movie, it's fucking awful. That's not how I feel about the movie. I just feel very meh, 4.5-ish out of 10, something like that. And my thing is, hey, if you like the trailers, if you enjoyed the trailers, go see the movie. Because I felt the same way I did after the movie that I felt about the trailers. That the marketing really didn't move me too much. I wasn't really feeling it, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, if you don't like Crypto during the trailers, you're probably not going to like him during the movie. If you love Crypto during the trailers, you're probably going to love that little bastard. A lot of people love Crypto, especially a lot of girls. And that is understandable.
Yeah, I wonder, I think that James Gunn might not have been the best choice to direct this movie. I think he's great when it comes to groups, right? You know, Suicide Squad, Guardians, Justice Gang. He loves group interplay. Even the Daily Planet interplay was fun. You know, Beck Bennett's character and Jimmy Olsen, that was funny. That was good. You know, so he had like his work, his people at work, then he had his superhero work friends. So it's like no matter where Superman went, he had sort of a group of people to deal with, right?
Yeah.
His work friends, his superhero work friends, not alone. And even though Justice Gang was not as big a part of the movie as we had initially thought, still it was like a lot of characters. I mean, look, he did his best to balance them, but I'm sure there's a 2.5-hour cut of this movie that where it's becomes less surface level.
Here's the thing. The movie felt like there's 20 or 30 minutes more.
Yeah.
And instead of cutting out plot lines, they just smashed everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it feels the way that it does. And I agree with you. here is the one. Let's be a little bit positive about this. I think for the most part, the casting is awesome.
Yeah.
I like a lot of these actors and actresses as these characters. And there's some things that I don't like that they do in the movie. There's some things that I like in the movie. But I think, this core group, I think Corn Sweat, Holt, Brosnahan, and even some of the ancillary characters, Mr. Terrific was really good. I like Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. Like, these castings, I think are great. So my expectation for this movie is we're going to have a massive kind of, it's going to get maybe creep to 600 million or something, right? And that should be very disappointing for you in general to the kickoff of this new franchise, but less than Man of Steel from 12 fucking years ago. All this stuff that we can talk about whenever we get that final thing. Well, I think internally, if that happens, the silver lining is we have something that can work in this universe. We have these characters that can work. We need to get somebody else to do Superman. So James Gunn can oversee everything, and he can go off and do like a Justice Gang movie. Like, he can do all this other stuff that could probably be really good and within his skill set. But somebody else needs to come in there and take over Superman and Lex Luthor and Lois Lane. That's the way I kind of feel about it.
Yeah, I also feel like the movie never slowed down. It was definitely for the TikTok generation, which they promoted heavily on social media. The social campaign was huge for this movie, and it's the least expensive marketing is social media. Okay. And I do believe Gunn, when they talk about the budget was low, he is known for coming in under budget, on time, making his days, not being like the greasy wheel. He just sort of stays below the radar and does his job as a director, which is to make your days, not get behind schedule. It's the one thing that will inflate a budget, not making your day and staying on schedule. So it could have been done really cheaply. Plus, David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan got paid the same, and it was under $1 million. They got paid $750,000 each to do the movie. Now
they do have back end box office shares and stuff like that, which I think is the case for all of them. I saw some people shocked that Nicholas Hoult was getting paid that much more. It's like, no, he is a much more established, especially movie actor than they are, and would be in higher demand, and that completely makes sense to me. When it does come to but here's one of the things: James Gunn never does reshoots.
Yeah, well,
he did reshoots for this movie. To some extent.
Never. I think every movie, George Lucas would do insert shots for Star Wars. I need a button being pushed. I don't know how big the reshoots were for this, but reshoots, clarifying.
My whole thing is, we did see a lot of the lies, just straight up lies about that initial budget, right? Because no matter what way you want to spin it, in the official tax filing, Warner Brothers official tax documents, they said that the budget for the movie is $363 million. You can't spin that. That just is. Now, they could certainly have come in under budget, but what was the reaction for that? Oh, I wish we had that much. Some intern must have filled that out wrong. Okay, shut up.
It is possible. I mean, I dropped off a lot of stuff at Goodwill recently. I may have inflated the value of the things I dropped off to help me on my taxes. So I can see them fudging some numbers for some tax advantage. Yeah, that makes sense because I've done it. So, but who knows? I mean, I just assume off the bat that every studio lies about budget, even money, or how happy they are. It's political. It's a political position.
Look, they're being diplomatic. That told us that they didn't spend as much as they actually did on The Flash 2 years ago, right? Where they promised, $200 million. It comes out as like $325 million, because of that stuff. So that's what I mean. I do agree that studios lie. I feel like they more often lie to make themselves look better. In general, which is why Warner Brothers we would celebrate $500 million. We say the same shit in Captain America: Brave New World. We saw the leaked budgets about that. We saw all the rounds of reshoots they went through, and then Disney comes out. We only spent $180 million on production budget, and the break-even point is $425. Nobody fucking believes them. In the same way, I'm going to treat this the exact same way. You know what I mean?
One thing
At least I respect when Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible 8, they put that out and they say, yeah, by the way, spent $400 million on this. At least they're being fucking honest,
right.
even if that movie lost money.
But the side note on this, it's weird. Like modern studios, they're making like constant new IP or like new movies based on really old IP. I'm told that sometimes they don't care if it just breaks even because it increases the value of the back catalog. So we're talking about the new Superman, which makes people go back, and they've got on Fandango, Vudu, all the VOD. You can buy all the old Superman movies box set. You can buy this thing, or you can get like a digital collection. Same thing with Mission Impossible. The back catalog is worth more money. Plus, there's ancillary when it goes to Max and whatever. I don't know how they calculate how that makes money. And Warner Brothers still puts out Blu-rays, which is nice to know. One of the few companies still supporting that. So I don't know. We'll see.
And what I said from the beginning, to me, I think that their target 700 million. And because I do believe that the budget is way higher than it actually is, I'm not sure if that will actually break even. I think it would take more than that for theatrical break even. Right. However, and I think overall the reception has been good. I don't think it's, oh my God, so great, like we heard influencers saying on Monday and like we heard from the early prime screenings on Tuesday. I think overall it's good word of mouth for the movie. So for them, starting the universe, get past 700, definitely they want to get past Man of Steel just for optics. If they don't, that is embarrassing for them because of the decisions they've made. But if you can get with, and people have some excitement for what's going on in the future, and you can have a fan base that's like engaged, even if you don't maybe quite break even at the box office, that can be positive for them. I think there are wins beyond just the upfront money, and you're looking towards the future 1000%. But I think there's different levels. If it makes 500 million, they're gonna be like, fuck, this is not good. We need to reevaluate maybe what we're doing. If it makes 6, they'll be like, let's think about some changes. Like they're levels, do you know what I mean, to what the reception is from the fan base versus what they actually feel like internally. But you're 100% right that there is more than just the straight up this day monetary value of it. 100%.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a collective meh, I think, in some way, but I don't hate the film. I don't. There are really, really redeemable aspects. You mentioned the cast. That's probably the biggest thing. He's really good at that. Gunn is really good at casting. I saw an interview with him done by David Desmalchin where he's in a coffin. It's called Grave Conversations. And just put this out there. He talks about really loving Batmite.
Yeah, Batmite is 100% going to be in a movie at some point.
If he does goofy Batman with Batmite,
let's have it be the second Batman movie that comes out in 8 years from now or something. Where he's getting like scarecrow gassed and he's hallucinating and shit like that. And there's a random vision and Batmite appears.
That makes sense. It in there. A vision, not real. But yeah, he was, look up that interview, Grave Conversations. He's much better off the cuff than I saw him at CinemaCon. He was so rehearsed. He made mistakes and he just was stiff and it felt like he was nervous and he felt like a politician, not an artist. And I think at his heart, he is an artist, but he's better at off the cuff conversations, not red carpets, not junkets, any of that bullshit. I hate junket interviews. Those are the worst.
And we know who James Gunn is when it comes to that, when it comes to his strengths and stuff, when it comes to the things he's really good at. And that's why for the past 2 years, we've all been saying, is James Gunn's Superman? Is that right? Because I think James Gunn is great for things like The Suicide Squad, where you get to take a very random, crazy, wacky, weird assortment of characters and have fun with them. And because not as many people might be familiar with those, if it's not exactly like the character from the comics, if they make some change or something, it's much easier to gloss over because you don't really care as much.
Right.
But he's the guy for Superman. And I don't even think he felt he was the guy for Superman. He was
I
approached
would,
about it a few years before he agreed to it. And he said, I don't really feel comfortable writing that character. And that's
yeah,
why Mr. Terrific is more of a standout in this movie than Superman. Like
because
that's why, because he's just not, I don't think he's comfortable with it.
Mr. Terrific is more in his wheelhouse, but ultimately that could have been Batman. The role he fulfilled, gadgets, being smart,
Ultra serious.
That's Batman. Dry, I mean, funny, but not intentional, I mean, not goofy funny, like dry humor. Like he was basically being Batman, Mr. Terrific. But I like that character. And I'm surprised to hear you and Jeremy like him as well. It's very surprising.
Because he's black, Chris. Is that what we're saying? Because he's black?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like a lot of people don't even know who Mr. Terrific is, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I didn't know, by the way. I did not know who he was.
Yeah, and I can't say I'm a massive, I look at all these Mr. Terrific. I can't say that, but I am familiar with him, and I know his story, and I know his backstory. I know who he is as a character, and I think they did a good job with him in the movie. Yeah. Although there's no way Mr. Terrific's garage door would be that slow, okay? Just not happening. Motherfucker has T-spheres that can do anything. You're telling me he didn't fix his garage door? Fuck off.